Hello, welcome to Dungeoneers Pack, a channel bringing you player-focused discussions and character guides for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Josh, thank you for watching. The Way of the Astral Self Monk has our martial arts master use their ki to unleash an avatar to defeat their foes. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the Way of the Astral Self Monk's defining features, discuss ways you can use the theme of the subclass to develop your character, provide some ways you can reflavor this subclass, and give you some ideas on how you can play the Way of the Astral Self Monk in the official 5th edition settings. With that said, let's get started. The Way of the Astral Self is different from other monk subclasses. Each feature improves upon the previous one, which is reflective of the main theme of the subclass. I will go into more detail about that in just a bit. At 3rd level, we start off with Arms of the Astral Self. This kicks off our transformative features and allows us to build a monk with Wisdom as the primary ability score. We can use our Wisdom modifier for strength checks and saving throws, as well as for our attack and damage rolls. Despite not receiving a boost to our damage output, the damage type we can do will be Force, which can get around non-magical damage resistances in the early levels. The Visage of the Astral Self adds a helmet or mask that provides additional abilities that are mainly beneficial out of combat. We gain improvements to some of our social skills while it's active. Unfortunately, we must spend an additional ki point to activate this when we activate our arms, which is a pretty heavy ki investment in the lower levels. The body feature provides damage reduction to energy types and increased damage to one of our attacks. In order to have this active though, we must spend the 2 ki points to activate our arms and visage. Fortunately, we don't need to spend any additional ki points to activate this feature. Finally, the subclass culminates with the last feature, Awaken Astral Self. We must spend 5 ki points for this feature, but it activates all our previous abilities and also increases our armor class by 2, and when we use the attack action with our arms, we can make an additional attack. The one theme this subclass does a great job of depicting is the concept of Transcendence. Transcendence is defined as existence or experience beyond the normal or physical level. The subclass relies on the definition of the word while still taking into account the philosophical, religious, and pop culture interpretations. With each feature our character gains in this subclass, it's as if they are realizing their potential. They are advancing their physical form into a metaphysical one. There are a variety of paths that our monk can take to achieve transcendence, which can provide a personal goal for our character for the campaign. If you want to play a character who believes that expanding their mind will achieve transcendence, consider taking a sage background and any of the following feats: Linguist, Skill Expert, Skilled, or Telepathic. Taking the Linguist skill, Skill Expert, or Skilled feats is a way to show our character expanding their knowledge and having the talents to prove it. The Telepathic feat takes the idea in a supernatural direction, as the monk is training to empower their mind to impose their will on the physical world. Another path to take is a religious one. We could be a monk that believes achieving transcendence is done through following one's faith. Consider taking the Acolyte background and the Magic Initiate feat to pick up some cleric spells. The last idea you can use is having your monk seeking inner peace. In order to pull this off, our monk should have a trait that is in direct conflict with that goal. They could be driven by passion and quick to act at the beginning of the campaign. As we continue to level into the class and as events unfold in our campaign, the monk's zealous nature can develop into one that is calmer. They learn to weigh the consequences before taking action. Now let's take a look at some ways we can reflavor this subclass. The first way to reflavor this subclass has been touched on when I discussed the subclass's theme. We can use this subclass to play a psionic monk. We can reflavor our astral self as a psionic manifestation. To further support this, consider taking the telekinetic and telepathic feats. Another way to reflavor the features in this subclass is to make our astral form a manifestation of darkness. Maybe our character was touched by the Shadowfell and the astral form is our character summoning the darkness from that plane. In other settings that don't feature the Shadowfell, we can still use this idea. In Eberron, we can be an elf with the Mark of Shadow. In Ravnica, we can play as a guild member of House Demir. And in Theros, we can be a champion of Erebos, the god of death. For all these ideas, consider taking the Shadow Touch feat. Now let's take a look at how we can play this subclass in the official 5th edition settings. In Forgotten Realms, we can use this subclass to play a Githzerai monk who's a devout follower of Zerthamon. They begin to have doubts about the isolationist stance of their peoples and venture out of limbo and into the other planes. In Eberron, this is a perfect subclass for a Kalashtar who is in tune with their Kori soul, and they travel the world trying to defeat the Dreaming Dark. In Ravnica, we can play a Boros Legionnaire who manifests their righteous fury into an angelic visage to protect them in combat. And finally, in Theros, we can play as a Nyxborn that can manipulate the essence of Nyx to aid them in their quest to become the champion of the plane. The Way of the Astral Self Monk provides players an evocative visual for the subclass features to roleplay. Each of the features in this subclass build on one another. While the features sync up, they do not interact with any of the other abilities from the base monk class. In earlier tiers of play, we will not be as efficient with our ki usage, which seems to be a recurring issue for many of the monk subclasses. Another thing many players will find an issue with is the earlier features of the subclass don't provide any substantial boost to our damage. This will turn off players that are wanting a subclass with some raw power. The Way of the Astral Self does allow for the monk to be built built with Wisdom as the primary ability score, which could have taken this subclass into an interesting design space. Unfortunately, none of the other features in this subclass benefit from using Wisdom, and the only ability that can utilize a higher Wisdom score would be our Stunning Strike. To get the most out of this subclass, players will have to invest time into it because it is a late bloomer. The additional damage to an attack per turn and an extra attack is nothing to discount even if we receive it at the higher tiers of play. Overall, the Way of the Astral Self Monk introduces a Wisdom focused subclass without too many options to capitalize on using this ability score. What redeems this subclass in my eyes is that if a player invests their time into it, they will be rewarded for doing so. With that said, I want to hear from you. What do you think of the Way of the Astral Self Monk? Let me know down in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, I drop a video every week, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're looking to play a symbiote armored hero, check out my character build featuring their Armorer Artificer. You can click on the video on the screen to see what abilities you need to play a character inspired by Guyver and Venom. Alright, I'm out of here. Have a good one.